So Mondraker FOXY Carbon extended review. This goes along with the blog that has a lot more in-depth insights to my opinions. I want to share, kind of really what I like about this bike and what I've learned about this bike and where I like my spec and why I like my spec. The FOXY forward geometry. The geometry was cutting edge. They were in the first few brands to go longer, lower, slacker, meaner, and really take advantage of that smaller offset that came through the forks about the same time. It's not too much further forward than any of the modern top tier bikes. When they launched that marketing platform, it definitely was. It is a little bit longer than, say, an equal-sized Yeti. So I came off a large SB130, which I thought might be just a little bit small. But I stayed on the large with the Mondraker, and I'm happy that I did. I think it's got the right fit. It allows me to run a stem length that I like, and it gave me just a little bit more reach, which was good for climbing in particular for me with my back. Zero suspension. This is the first bike I've had that has floating suspension. That's to say, both ends of the shock are mounted onto a pivot, floats into the suspension. Really compliant system. But Mondraker has designed in a lot of efficiency, and the way the bike separates the pedaling from the suspension is really notable, and it creates a super compliant, very plush system that's also extremely efficient. It doesn't bob, it doesn't waste energy going up and down. It's the first bike I've had that I don't use the climb switch on, and I've been really pleased with that. As far as where the suspension uphill, like I said, it's efficient. It climbs better than I do. I'm not a great climber. What I've noted on the zero suspension, because I can run it open and because of the design, I think, when I'm climbing rocks, like chunky rock sections, on previous bikes, I always felt like I really had to just be like super on the attack, because it felt like the bike wanted to spring me back off if I was trying to climb the rock. So I had to have enough momentum and enough power left to like absorb that spring and get the power back on. This bike, more than any other bike I've had, will churn up rocks. So if you don't have the power left in that tank, which, I'm not the fittest dude, so sometimes happens, but this bike will churn. It'll just rock crawl up and over things very confidently. Very unique to this chassis for me, and I really like that about it. Something that might be helping that a little bit, the 52 tooth cassette's my first run with a 52 tooth, and I do use an oval chainring, although the oval chainring, I think it does feel better on my knees. I think if you're spinning huge cadence, you might not like it, but for me, I kind of just churned. As far as the climbing prowess, I would say it's the suspension not activating when you get on the gas, so it's not like locking itself out with that pedal torque, and it's allowing the suspension to suspend and the drivetrain to drive. Separating those two makes a huge difference on the uphill in particular is where I've noticed it. Downhill, this bike's amazing. It's an EWS level chassis. You should expect that. Where I've been surprised pleasantly on this bike is it's much more fun and lively on flat type trails or lower speed trails than I would have thought. I've got it built with a 170 front end, and I was a little bit worried with the extra height that it might wander a bit, it might get a little slack and not want to change directions. None of that's been the case. This bike is lively, it changes directions well, holds lines well, it climbs holding lines as well as I can. If you're a super climbing guy, like really particular, I want my tire right there, you might go with the 160, it might give you a little bit more. For me, I don't notice a difference between the 160 and the 170 on this bike. The bike's got what we call a soft speed limit, so it lets you know when you start getting up to a pace where the bike's like, I'm a little nervous, rather than a bike with a hard speed limit, which all of a sudden will try to spit you. This bike's very forgiving that way, which is a confident thing to have underneath you, especially if you're getting into bigger terrain and going faster. Where this bike really does shine is something with medium to high speed and the chunk. This bike is pretty amazing through all of that. Definitely still fun on my after work, it's basically an XC trail. but it's close to work and I don't get motivated to try to drive home or whatever. As far as the rest of my spec, I do really go through it in the blog, but cockpit, Magura MT5 brakes, they're the least expensive 4-piston in the lineup, but you get all the performance that allows me to justify kind of spending some money other places. Tag T1 bars, I've been pleasantly surprised. Wanted to try them. They're a 40 mil rise. I like having my hands up a little bit higher. Gives you more power to punch back in the steep stuff or when you get into chunky stuff. It's got an ovalized design, so it takes out some of the trail vibration. It's not necessarily something you're going to totally feel, but it is there. It's designed in. I like that concept. Ergon grips. The only thing I got to say about these, I climb with my gloves off because I carry cameras and stuff all the time. They're slippery if they get wet. As soon as I put my gloves on, no issues, but when I'm climbing up, you can see I'm still sweating from the descent. They get a little bit slippery if you don't have gloves on. If I forget my gloves, I just put dirt on my hands. Here's another plane landing. This is another one of my favorite trail networks. It's down by my house. It's Mission Trails. It sits right by Miramar, so you get to hear the jets now and then. I run SRAM GX drivetrains. It's kind of where I find the crossover point on value for me personally. The XO1 stuff, the XO1 XX1 stuff lasts maybe a little bit longer, and I do run an upgraded chain because I feel like that makes a big difference. But if you keep these SRAM drivetrains lubricated, they'll last super, super long time, and they'll shift well throughout the lifetime. I hate to even tell you the amount of how far past worn I can use these, as long as you're pedaling kind of consistent and not slamming that power on, not shifting, dump shifting, it'll go a long way. Tires, I'm going EXO Plus front and rear. Haven't put any rim protection in yet. I've been pretty... EXO rears I've done for a long time. This was my first EXO front, but it's helping keep the rim a little nicer. DT EX 1700 rims, 30 millimeter wide, which is my favorite width. It gives you a nice place to have a tire that will fit with plenty of lean angle left. If you go super, super wide, sometimes you lose a little bit of lean angle. They're DT 350 hubs. They're the small diameter with straight pull. It's the first time I've run those. I do notice if I corner hard, the front one, I can get the rotor tinging pretty heavy. So there is some more compliance or give in that wheel than maybe I'm used to, but I can't say anything bad about the performance. It's held up. You hear the rotor tinging, but it feels kind of macho sometimes. Beyond that, like I said, check out the blog. This at bikeco.com, we have a variety of ways that we can build these things. This one's a little bit unique because I've gone with the Fox front, Fox rear because of my size instead of the stock Öhlins. We can do that if you're a Fox guy, or if you're a little heavier rider like me and you're going to push past where some of these other suspensions can go. Cockpit brakes, another good place to make sure that you customize your spec. And yeah, we look forward to working with you, and I hope you're going to love your next bike as much as I love this one.